Single dad walked in on his CEO boss crying at her table. Triplets' voices changed everything. The sound of muffled sobs echoed through the executive suite as Marcus Johnson froze in the doorway, the quarterly reports clutched in his trembling hand. His formidable CEO, Victoria Hayes, the woman known throughout the industry as the Ice Queen, sat hunched over her mahogany desk, shoulders shaking, completely unaware of his presence. In that moment, everything Marcus thought he knew about his boss shattered. What happened next would not only transform their professional relationship but heal wounds neither knew could be mended. If you've ever believed people are more than they appear, this story will touch your heart. Like and subscribe for more life-changing moments that remind us of our shared humanity. Marcus backed away silently, his heart hammering against his ribs. He shouldn't have seen this. Victoria Hayes didn't cry. Victoria Hayes didn't even flinch when she laid off entire departments. Victoria Hayes was untouchable, unreachable, the brilliant, cold-blooded CEO who had transformed Horizon Technologies from a struggling startup into a Fortune 500 company in just 7 years. And yet, there she was, breaking apart behind closed doors. He retreated to his cubicle, the quarterly reports forgotten. At 34, Marcus had learned to compartmentalize his life with military precision, a skill he'd developed after his wife Emma's death 3 years ago, leaving him the sole parent to their triplets. Work was work. Home was home. Emotions belonged at home, locked away until his daughters were asleep and he could process them in private. But Victoria's tears had disturbed something in him. They humanized the woman he'd been quietly resenting for months, the boss who scheduled mandatory meetings at 7 p.m. without considering that some employees might have children waiting at home with babysitters charging by the hour. "Daddy's home," Marcus called out as he pushed open the door to his modest apartment later that evening. 3 identical voices squealed in delight as his 6-year-old daughters, Lily, Rose, and Violet, abandoned their coloring books and raced toward him. Their dark curls bounced with each step, so like their mothers that sometimes it physically hurt to look at them. "We made you pictures," Rose announced, thrusting a crayon drawing into his hands. "Mine has a unicorn," Lily added, not to be outdone. "I drew our family," Violet said quietly, showing him a picture of 4 stick figures, 1 tall, 3 small, standing beneath a smiling sun. Marcus knelt down, gathering all 3 into his arms. "They're beautiful, just like you 3. How was school today?" As the girls chattered excitedly about their day, Marcus paid the babysitter and began preparing dinner, his mind still lingering on Victoria's tears. What could possibly break a woman like that? The next morning, Marcus arrived at work earlier than usual. The office was nearly empty, the fluorescent lights not yet at full brightness. He made his way to the break room for coffee and stopped short when he saw Victoria already there, staring blankly at the wall as the coffee machine gurgled. She looked different, smaller somehow, without her usual armor of designer suits and perfect makeup. Today, there were shadows under her eyes, and her normally immaculate blonde hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. "Good morning, Ms. Hayes," Marcus said cautiously. Victoria startled, then quickly composed herself. "Mr. Johnson. You're in early." The triplets had a sleepover at a friend's house. Quiet morning for once. He smiled tentatively, testing the waters. Something flickered across her face, interest, perhaps. "Triplets? I didn't realize you had children." "3 girls. They're 6. Victoria nodded, and for a moment, Marcus thought she might ask more. Instead, she grabbed her coffee and said, "The Henderson proposal needs revisions. On my desk by noon," before striding away. Marcus sighed. So much for human connection. The following weeks passed in a blur of deadlines and late nights. Marcus noticed Victoria watching him sometimes, her expression unreadable. Once, when he mentioned needing to leave early for his daughter's school play, she merely nodded instead of delivering her usual lecture about commitment and priorities. Then came the day everything changed. Marcus was working late, again, when his phone rang. The babysitter's panicked voice informed him that Violet had a fever of 103, and she was taking her to the emergency room. Rose and Lily were frightened, asking for their daddy. He burst into Victoria's office without knocking. "I have to go. Family emergency." Victoria looked up sharply. "We're in the middle of the Westfield merger." "My daughter is in the ER," Marcus interrupted, already backing toward the door. "The other two are scared." "I'm sorry, but this isn't negotiable." Something shifted in Victoria's expression. "Go," she said simply. "Family first." Marcus was too preoccupied to register the significance of those words. Hours later, with Violet diagnosed with a severe ear infection and finally sleeping peacefully on antibiotics, Marcus collapsed onto his couch. Rose and Lily had eventually fallen asleep in his bed, their little bodies curled protectively around each other. His phone buzzed with a text message. "Unknown, is your daughter all right?" Marcus stared at the screen in confusion before replying. "Marcus, who is this?" "Unknown, Victoria Hayes. I got your number from HR. How is your daughter?" Marcus blinked in surprise. "Marcus, she'll be okay. Ear infection. Thank you for asking." "Victoria, good. Take tomorrow off. The Westfield merger can wait." Marcus stared at his phone, bewildered by this unexpected kindness. The next day, as he juggled medication schedules and comforting 3 little girls, because when one triplet was sick, the others insisted they needed equal attention, his doorbell rang. He opened it to find Victoria Hayes standing awkwardly in the hallway, holding a large gift basket filled with children's books, stuffed animals, and what appeared to be homemade soup. "Ms. Hayes?" Marcus couldn't keep the shock from his voice. "I thought." She hesitated, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "When my son was sick, books and soup were the only things that helped." "Your son?" Marcus repeated, stunned. Victoria's face closed off immediately. "The soup needs to be heated. I hope your daughter feels better soon." She thrust the basket into his hands and turned to leave. "Wait," Marcus called after her. "Would you like to come in? The girls are watching Frozen for the 100th time, but there's coffee." Victoria paused, conflict evident on her face. Then, to his surprise, she nodded. Inside, 3 identical faces turned toward the door, curiosity momentarily overriding their movie. "Girls, this is Ms. Hayes." "My boss," Marcus explained. "You're pretty," Lily declared boldly. "Are you Daddy's girlfriend?" Rose asked, earning a mortified look from Marcus. "No, sweetheart. I'm just someone who works with your dad," Victoria replied, her voice gentler than Marcus had ever heard it. Violet, still pale from her illness, studied Victoria with solemn eyes. "You look sad," she observed quietly. "Like Daddy does sometimes when he thinks we're sleeping." Victoria's composure faltered visibly. "Sometimes grown-ups get sad too," she managed. "When I'm sad, Daddy gives me hugs," Violet continued. "Do you have someone to give you hugs?" The question hung in the air, innocent yet devastating. "Violet, that's enough questions," Marcus intervened, recognizing the pain in Victoria's eyes. "Why don't you girls thank Ms. Hayes for the gifts while I make coffee?" In the kitchen, Marcus busied himself with mugs and coffee filters, giving Victoria a moment to recover. When he returned, he found her sitting on the couch, with Violet showing her a drawing. Rose and Lily had returned their attention to the movie, but occasionally glanced curiously at their visitor. "She's talented," Victoria commented, examining Violet's artwork. "They all are. They get it from their mother," Marcus said, then immediately regretted bringing up Emma. "Where is their mother?" Victoria asked softly. Marcus swallowed hard. "She died 3 years ago. Car accident." Victoria's eyes met his, filled with unexpected understanding. "I'm sorry. It's been challenging," Marcus admitted. "Especially with 3 of them. But we manage." Victoria nodded, her gaze drifting back to the girls. "Children are remarkably resilient." Something in her tone made Marcus ask, "Your son, you mentioned him earlier?" Victoria stiffened, then seemed to make a decision. "Nathan. He would have been 8 this year." The past tense wasn't lost on Marcus. "I'm sorry," he echoed her earlier sentiment, understanding now what might have caused her tears that day in her office. "Leukemia," Victoria said quietly. 2 years ago. His father couldn't handle it, left 6 months into the diagnosis. I was CEO, mother, and caregiver all at once. That's why you're so driven, Marcus realized aloud. Victoria gave a small, sad smile. Work doesn't leave room for grief. At least, that's what I told myself. Until it catches up with you, Marcus said gently. Their eyes met in shared understanding, 2 parents who had faced the unimaginable, trying to rebuild lives around gaping wounds. "The day you saw me," Victoria began. "You don't have to explain. It was Nathan's birthday," she continued anyway. "I found a video on my phone I hadn't seen before. He was laughing." Her voice broke slightly. Violet, sensing Victoria's distress, climbed into her lap without invitation and patted her cheek. "It's okay to cry," she said with the simple wisdom of children. "Daddy says tears help the sad come out." Victoria looked startled, then touched, by the child's gesture. "Your daddy is very smart." "He's the best daddy," Rose chimed in from her spot on the floor. "He makes funny voices when he reads stories," Lily added. "And he never forgets to check for monsters under the bed," Violet concluded. Victoria looked at Marcus with new eyes. "Sounds like you're doing an amazing job." "Most days I feel like I'm failing," he admitted. "Especially when work demands so much time." Victoria winced slightly. "I may have contributed to that problem." "You didn't know." "I didn't ask," she corrected. "After Nathan. I think I resented people with healthy children. Especially single parents who seemed to be managing what I couldn't." The honesty of her confession hung between them, creating a bridge neither had expected to build. That evening marked the beginning of a transformation. Victoria left with promises to bring more soup when the girls were feeling better, and Marcus found himself looking forward to seeing a different side of his formidable boss. At work, subtle changes appeared. Victoria instituted a new flexible scheduling policy for employees with families. The mandatory late meetings became optional video conferences that could be attended from home. And most surprisingly, she began asking Marcus about his daughters, genuine questions that showed she was listening to his answers. 2 months later, Victoria arrived at Marcus's desk with an unexpected proposal. "The company is hosting a family picnic next Saturday," she announced. "I thought your girls might enjoy it. There will be face painting, a bouncy castle." Marcus smiled. "They'd love that. But won't it be difficult for you?" Victoria took a deep breath. "It's time I stopped hiding from children's laughter. Nathan wouldn't have wanted that." The picnic was a revelation for everyone. Employees who had feared Victoria for years watched in astonishment as she helped Violet make a flower crown, laughed at Rose's jokes, and applauded Lily's cartwheels. The triplets, with their uninhibited affection and endless questions, had somehow breached the walls around Victoria's heart that adults couldn't penetrate. "They're remarkable," Victoria told Marcus as they watched the girls play with other children. "You've raised them well." "We're still figuring it out day by day," Marcus admitted. "Some days are harder than others." "Like when they ask about their mother?" Marcus nodded. "Or when they need things only a mother can provide." "I try, but..." "You can't be everything," Victoria finished for him. "No parent can." Their conversations grew deeper over the following months. Victoria began joining them for occasional dinners or Sunday afternoons in the park. The girls adored her, especially Violet, who seemed to sense the depth of Victoria's loss and offered her own special brand of six-year-old comfort. At work, Marcus and Victoria became a formidable team. His practical approach complemented her visionary leadership, and she began relying on him for major projects. Rumors circulated about their relationship, but neither paid attention. What was developing between them defied simple categorization. One evening, after the girls were in bed, Victoria lingered in Marcus's living room. They had ordered takeout and reviewed quarterly projections while the triplets colored nearby, creating a strangely comfortable domestic scene. "I've been thinking," Victoria said hesitantly. "The London expansion will require someone to oversee operations there for at least 6 months." Marcus felt his heart sink. "You're leaving?" "Actually, I was going to ask if you'd consider taking the position. It comes with a significant promotion, of course. Vice President of International Operations." Marcus stared at her. "Victoria, I can't possibly move 3 young children to London for 6 months." "I know," she said quickly. "That's why I've been working on an alternative. The position could be primarily remote, with monthly week-long trips to London. During those weeks..." She hesitated. "I could stay with the girls." Marcus was speechless. "Only if you're comfortable with it," Victoria added. "I know it's unorthodox. But they know me now, and I thought..." "You'd do that?" Marcus interrupted. "Stay with them?" Victoria's expression softened. "They've become important to me. You've all become important to me." The admission hung between them, laden with unspoken feelings. "I don't know what to say," Marcus finally managed. "Say you'll think about it," Victoria suggested. "Talk to the girls. See how they feel." The triplets, predictably, were thrilled with the idea of Victoria staying with them. "Like a sleepover," Rose exclaimed. "Can she read us bedtime stories?" Lily wanted to know. "Will she make soup?" Violet asked, having developed a particular fondness for Victoria's homemade chicken soup. Their enthusiasm settled the matter for Marcus. He accepted the position, and they worked out the logistics. Victoria would stay at his apartment during his London weeks, maintaining the girls' routines and stability. The arrangement worked better than anyone could have anticipated. Victoria discovered she had a natural affinity for the triplets' unique personalities. She helped Rose with her math homework, encouraged Lily's budding interest in science, and spent hours listening to Violet's elaborate stories. During video calls from London, Marcus would watch in amazement as his daughters clamored to tell him about their adventures with Ms. Victoria, as they called her. And Victoria herself seemed transformed, the hardness in her eyes replaced by a warmth he'd never imagined possible. 6 months stretched into 8 as the London project expanded. By the time Marcus returned permanently to New York, something fundamental had shifted in their relationship. Victoria had become part of their family's rhythm, and the thought of returning to their previous arrangement felt impossible. On a crisp autumn evening, almost a year after he'd first witnessed her tears, Marcus invited Victoria to dinner, just the two of them, while the girls stayed with a friend. "I've been thinking," he said as they walked through Central Park afterward, leaves crunching beneath their feet. "The girls miss you when you're not around." Victoria smiled. "I miss them too. More than I expected." "And I miss you," Marcus added quietly. "When you're not with us." Victoria stopped walking, turning to face him. "Marcus. I know it's complicated," he continued. "We work together. You're technically my boss. There's my girls to consider, and Nathan's memory, and Emma's." "But?" Victoria prompted, her eyes searching his. "But I think we've created something beautiful here. Something that honors those we've lost while still moving forward." He took her hand. "I don't want to lose you." Victoria's eyes filled with tears, but unlike that day in her office, these weren't tears of despair. "I never thought I'd find this again," she whispered. "A family. Hope." "Neither did I," Marcus admitted. "But the girls helped me see what was possible. Especially Violet, with her old soul and big heart." "She reminds me of Nathan sometimes," Victoria said softly. "The way she notices things others miss." Marcus nodded. "She said something interesting the other day. She said maybe her mom sent you to us because she knew we needed someone to love." Victoria's breath caught. "And what do you think?" "I think," Marcus said carefully, "that sometimes life gives us second chances in the most unexpected ways. And I think I'd be a fool not to recognize this one." He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away. Instead, Victoria met him halfway, their kiss gentle and full of promise. When they finally told the girls they were dating, the triplets were unsurprised. "We already knew," Rose informed them matter-of-factly. "You look at